How important is automation to your success and sanity as a dental practice owner? I am here with my friend and awesome sponsor, fellow practice owner, Dr. Lior, who is going to share what the dental app does and how it helps with automation. But if we just start with that first question, Lior, you're a practice owner, you're in the proverbial trenches of dentistry, right? Um, if you just talk about automation in general, I mean, I graduated in 2002. When did you graduate?
Oh nine.
Oh, nine. So, I mean, you forget that things didn't exist back then, right? They just didn't exist when I got out of dental school. And something as simple as now we text patients for reminding of them of their appointments. That wasn't a thing when I first started in dentistry. And this automation helps us be more successful, stay more sane. What does automation mean to you, and why should dentists pay attention to it?
That's a great question. I think the what automation means is actually changing the way that the systems are, coming to market, where you can now, obviously we started off with simple things like messaging and reminders, but how do you make that more personal? And then how do you do that at scale? And with some of the new systems, especially what I'm going to talk about today, that's becoming more of a reality and less so of a dream. I think there's some exciting insights that I'm going to talk about, especially as it pertains to, using systems, automating some of these follow-ups, and automating some of the business processes that are associated with just running a solid practice.
Awesome. I love it. I mean, we can never do too many things to take stressful, challenging things off the plate, off our own plates, and just as important, the plates of our team. The way I think of automation, Lior, is there are things that you could get someone else to do, and there's also things that people don't like to do. So you may as well automate them. When I first using that text message thing, but I'll talk about this. When you come back, and let's say we want our audience to learn about the dental app and do a demo. They're going to text integrate to 215-543-6454 to learn more. And I'm hoping my office manager is here because I've said to her many times, I want to do this thing to make your life easier. And she goes, I don't think we need to do this thing. The way we're doing it now is fine. Right. And then years go by, like outsourcing insurance. And I say, what did you think of that thing? And she said, it was the best thing we've ever done. Don't listen to me. So I just speak for a moment to the office manager, the practice owner, and when they have to make a change in their practice management software, go to the cloud from being on the ground. How would you talk them through some of that transition and pain points?
That's a great question. I honestly think that if a practice goes into it with the mindset of understanding that it's a change and change is always, something that takes time to get used to, and they're open-minded about it and understand that at the end of the day, not just my company, but all the companies that are doing this, our intent is to make your life easier. So if you go into it understanding that and are open to the change, then that's the right approach. We've tried at our company, we've tried to do a lot of things to streamline the onboarding process so you're not losing a lot of your data. We've tried to make the system easier to use. But at the end of the day, you really have to think of it like this. The reality is that, if you fast forward 10 years from now, it's kind of crazy to think that people will still be using a server-based system and, managing Windows 2016 and, remote clients and so on. So going onto the cloud is partially, making things easier, more accessible, but it's even deeper than that. Like, what opportunities are you missing out on? Like your
Right.
competitors or your
Good
offices.
job with the FOMO, because I know as dentists, they do not want to miss out on anything. So good
It's
job
true.
there.
It's
And I
true.
mean, I'll be authentic and I'll be vulnerable in this moment. It took our dental practice longer than it should have to switch to digital x-rays. My dad was working with us. He's an amazing dad. He was very resistant to it, and I gave in to some of that. And I said, okay, we're going to stick with regular x-rays longer than we should have. And now that would just seem totally nacho nuts for us to have plain film x-rays in our practice. So I understand the challenges, but also encourage you to pay attention to what Dr. Laura is going to teach you. To learn how to do a demo with the dental app, text integrate to 215-543-6454. I am going to allow you to share your screen to help our audience. We have a lot of people here watching in live, which I'm so impressed with, Dr. Lior. There also will be people watching in on the recording. Please feel free to ask questions along the way. So I am going to let you take over here when you get your screen shared there in the presenter mode. Perfect.
Amazing. Well, I really appreciate everyone coming on to hear me out and listen to a little bit more about the dental app. I'm going to try to give you some good insights and tips onto what you can implement into your practice, and also show you some details around the dental lab, what makes us unique, and how some of our tools are designed to really help you scale and grow your practice. So a little bit of insight on myself. I am a dentist, practicing dentist. I run a really large clinic out in the Silicon Valley area, so San Mateo, California. And what I managed to do was I swooped up this empty facility. It was a de novo practice, and in record time, in under 7 years, I scaled this to collecting over $5 million a year. And I get asked all the time, like, "Hey, how did you do this? What are the things that you implemented? What are you doing that's different?" Especially in a very competitive area, and a lot of it comes down to implementing business processes around important tasks. So, for example, keeping track of patients that need outstanding treatment and have a follow-up system to reach out to them, measuring things, and continuously just trying to audit what I'm doing and improving that. What I've done over the years is I've taken all of my know-how and my knowledge and things that I know that have moved the needle, and I've built that into the dental lab. So if you haven't heard about the dental lab is practice management software that's cloud-based. And what's really unique about us is that we've taken a sales and marketing CRM, and we've built that right into your practice management software. And that's really what plays into the automation and the campaigns and some of the stuff I'm going to talk about today. So goal of this webinar is to really just kind of talk about what are the things you can automate in your practice. Some of these are really obvious, and I think most practices are already doing them, so I won't really spend too much time on that. Some are less so, and have more of a direct impact to increasing your revenue and increasing patient outcomes, etc. Obviously, every time that you improve how things run in your practice, you're reclaiming time, you're making things easier for your staff. And my goal is to provide some sort of actionable insight that you can go out and implement today. Why does this matter? I think this goes back to kind of what we talked about initially, that, many practice owners struggle. I think when we go to dental school, we come out and, we know some information on how to be clinical dentists. And then we go out into the real world, and if we want to be successful business owners or practice owners, we really have to learn a lot about business administration, right? So, the same way that we went to dental school for 3, 4, however long years, plus GPRs and so on, to become really great clinicians, I think there's a huge gap in terms of helping us understand how to implement specific things into our practice to run successful practices. There's a huge difference between how a really well-performing, extremely profitable dental practice operates versus one that is not. And I think it comes down to, what tools are you using? What are your missed revenue opportunities? What are the endless administrative tasks that your staff is stuck doing? And then how do you streamline that and get it going? Again, what I'm going to try to focus on are what are the things you can automate, how you can tackle some of these things, increase the efficiency in your office, and increase your profits. So let's really dive into it. What are some of the challenges that we face every single day? And let's talk about some of the processes that need to get automated, right? So, starting from just basic things, until today, I hear about, practice management software systems where if you're using an online scheduling portal, they don't really talk to each other and you're manually inputting data. Or some offices are not using automatic reminders. Some offices are not using systems to do reputation management. Some offices are, the way that their practice management system works requires them to submit an insurance claim, then log into a clearinghouse, copy and paste attachment codes back into the practice management software, things of the sort. And some of the more kind of sophisticated business processes that I see practices drop the ball on are keeping track of patients with outstanding treatment, and then marketing to our patients in a way where we're not spamming them, right? So, a lot of the dentists that we end up consulting with or talking to, we hear about, their challenges, and the solution in their mind always is, hey, how do I get new patients to come in? Because they think that that is the primary source of, new production. But most of the time, especially when we onboard offices, what we realize is that they're sitting on pretty much a gold mine. Patients that have been in multiple times, they have outstanding treatment, and for whatever reason, the patient didn't schedule those treatments, right? So maybe the patient was traveling, or their insurance ran out, or they weren't financially ready to commit to it. But there is a manual process to keep track of this. So most offices I've seen that are doing this, the way that they're managing patients with outstanding treatment is they're, using an analytic system. They're pulling out a list of patients that have that outstanding treatment, but that list is just, one big list of all the treatments. It doesn't filter to, all my patients that need a crown, or all my patients that need a filling, or all my patients that need an implant. They're putting that list into an Excel spreadsheet, and then they're using a third-party messaging system to reach out to those patients and manually tracking all those things. So this is a perfect example of how having automation or dashboards to kind of help with all of that can give you opportunities to increase your revenues. And then as that pertains to marketing, especially if you talk to consultants always talk about, hey, you need to do internal marketing. So you're not trying to market to outside people, but bringing your internal existing patients and reactivate them, get them back into the office, get patients to do whitenings or Invisalign days or things of the sort. Well, that's really difficult for us to do because we, in most cases, don't have the right tools in place. So all of these are inefficiencies. These lead to missed opportunities. And at the end of the day, a lot of poor patient outcomes because we're delaying critical communication. We're delaying bringing patients back in. And the good news is that more and more we're seeing tools coming out that that can really change the game in that, with the dental app leading the way with our CRM. So again, some of the benefits, this can, by implementing these business processes or automations, we can lower the costs, increase your production, therefore increasing your revenues, save you time, and patients are happy. So we talked a little bit about what we can automate in our practice. This is a great slide to kind of talk about, simple things, more sophisticated things, and then how we measure and grow. So, if you're not already automating your patient reminders, your scheduling reminders, you're, having systems to automatically follow up with no-shows, having system to automatically follow up with patients that call and you miss the call, that's a must. I mean, if you're not doing these things already, there is a whole slew of software systems out there that can help you do that. You really need to have those things in place. That's just going to save you so much time. The more sophisticated thing is, figuring out how you're going to follow up with patients that have outstanding treatment. So if you don't already have a system in place for that, especially if you're, you have a booming office, or you have a lot of patients, or maybe you've acquired an office and now you have all these patients that, you have these charts and you want to get them back in, you need to have a process for that. And this is really, really a critical step. Again, this goes back to the concept that, your patients that have outstanding treatment, they probably need to get this treatment done. It's an ethical thing to do to reach out to a patient and say, hey, you have this cavity, you need to follow up with them and say, if you don't complete this, this could turn into a bigger problem. I mean, that's what patients eventually want, or essentially want to do. And it is our responsibility to follow up with patients that way. So that's kind of a more sophisticated automation that you can implement. Patient engagement. So, if you're not doing email campaigns, also text message campaigns to get patients back in or get them interested, that's a huge missed opportunity. And one thing that we've talked a lot about with some of our practices and just what we've seen is that, especially for big ticket items like implants, veneers, Invisalign treatments, most of these treatments require multiple touch points or interactions with patients before they commit to it, right? So, a lot of times as dentists, because we just don't know better, you think you're going to present a treatment plan and then boom, patient's going to show up and do it. But the reality is, like, for example, with Invisalign, sometimes it takes 4 or 5 interactions over the course of 6, 8, 9 months, maybe even a year, before a patient commits, puts their down payment, figures out their financing. And so how do you deploy these campaigns? How do you stay top of mind? And that's really important. Automating reputation management, that's a huge, huge factor. So in my area in San Mateo, California, there's well over 100 dentists in my very small town. And my reputation at my own practice is fantastic. And so when patients are online and they're seeking out their the right dentist and who they want to go to and all those details, they're going on Yelp and Google and they're looking at what people have to say. And so automating reputation management is really important in just growing and standing out amongst your competition. So that's another really important automated task. And then essentially from there, how do you measure all of these things, right? We talk about this all the time. You cannot grow what you don't measure. So in order to have data-driven decisions in your practice, you have to have some sort of analytics platform built in or plugged into your practice management so that you can measure the efforts that you're doing and try to constantly improve. So, at the beginning of this year, the dental app launched a CRM. So just for people in the dental industry, a lot of times we don't know what that means. A CRM stands for Customer Relationship Management. And in our case, we called it a PRM or a Patient Relationship Management. But a CRM is essentially a system that allows you to keep track of all of your interactions with patients. So, for example, the easy, simple things like following up with patients, reputation management, automatic reminders. But then where ours really stands out and shines is we give you a way to have a dashboard to keep track of patients with outstanding treatment, follow up with them, and have an organized business process around that. So, if you look at every other industry outside of dentistry, I'm sure a lot of you have been online and you maybe it's late at night, you add something to your shopping cart on some e-commerce platform and you don't end up checking out. Well, the next morning you get an email and it says, hey, you forgot something in your cart. And maybe a week later you get some sort of promotion saying, hey, here's 10% off, why don't you check out? Well, that is essentially what a CRM is used for, is to track those interactions and then give the business that's using that CRM a way to better engage with their potential customers. Well, in our case, as dentists, we have to do that with our patients, right? So, excuse me, keep track of patients that have outstanding treatment, keep track of patients that need follow-ups, and then have a way to market to them at scale or have a way to keep track of them at scale. And so that's just a huge industry gap. And what we're actually seeing, we're seeing these large chains, the private equity and DSOs, they're taking over these large chains and essentially implementing third-party CRMs over practice management. So what the dental app has done is we've taken traditional practice management software and we've built in this CRM functionality to make it super easy out of the box. And I'm going to actually show you an example of what I mean by that. How this is different. Well, again, we have some of the basic tools built in, so the ability to have the automatic reminders and the reputation management, but having the CRM gives you unprecedented creativity and a way to scale things and track them as you continue to build personalized care. Transformative benefits. This really allows you to automate some of these tedious tasks. It provides you more insight into your practice and helps you uncover growth opportunities. So I'm going to pause this presentation real quick and shift screens to show you an example of how the CRM can be used. So you can see over here, this is the dental app, and there's two tabs to the dental app. You have your office view, which you can access your, two-way text messaging and your schedule and so on. And then you have this tab, which is the PRM. And there's 4 parts to the PRM here. The first tab is it gives you a view of all of your patients. So this is a bunch of dummy data and a test environment. But let me show you what you can do here, right? So you can say, hey, show me all of my patients that are active, right? So we went from 11,000 patients to 8,782. And as I continue to add these filters, so we'll say, and show me patients that have completed an appointment since, let's say, January 1st of 2024 of last year, right? And now we've filtered that to 4,000 patients. And let's say, we want to see patients that also have a crown that's outstanding, right? So they've been recommended a crown treatment that they didn't complete for whatever reason. So now we have 262 patients. And then you can even filter further. You could say, and those patients are past due. And that gives us to 87 patients. Well, so, in this dashboard, you're able to really streamline and filter in such a super refined way that allows you to, really kind of uncover these insights, right? So we have 87 patients in this database that have been in the office within the last year, are still active with the office, are due for their cleaning, and have outstanding treatment. And maybe you want to send them some sort of promotion or a reminder, or you have some hygiene openings and you want to prioritize these patients to come in. Well, now, because we're able to filter all this, we're able to take action with it. So we've created what we refer to as a patient segment. And from here, you're able to save that segment and say, hey, let's make it a dynamic segment or a static list, right? So what essentially this means is if it's a dynamic segment, the system will automatically add patients to this list as they meet that criteria. So let's say tomorrow, there's a patient that, all of a sudden meets all of the criteria that we've used in these filters, they'll automatically be added to that list. Versus a static list would be, okay, we're going to save these 87 patients and it's not going to add anyone to it. So you can create these segments and save them. And essentially that's what you're doing in the second tab. You're able to manage all of these segments and keep track of them. So the next two tabs, pipelines and broadcast, that's essentially where you're taking action and building out, actionable steps around that. So the first one I'll go into is what we refer to as our treatment pipeline. And this goes back to helping you automate the process and of keeping track of patients with outstanding treatment. So earlier in my presentation, I talked about how, in many sophisticated offices, they're stuck pulling an Excel spreadsheet out of their analytics platform. They're then, reaching out to those patients and asking them, hey, how are you? You're overdue for your treatment. You want to come back in. And they're managing that process in a really manual way. Well, what you can do here is you can create these pipelines of treatment. So for example, let's take our crowns and onlay pipeline. And you can then add a list that you saved from segments of all the patients that have outstanding crowns that they want to do. And from here, your office staff can view them and say, hey, I have 514 leads of patients that have outstanding treatment. And then through this dashboard, they're able to reach out to them. The system automatically logs all the communication, and you're moving them from a lead to followed up with to now they've been scheduled, and then eventually they complete the treatment. So for example, if we take this first patient here, you're able to click through, and again, there's nothing, this is a test environment, so we don't have text messages or phone calls or anything like that built in. But in the dental app, you can do text messages, we connect to Mango, so it will log all that communication. Your staff is able to reach out to the patient, it logs it, and then you're moving the patient from a follow-up to a schedule to so on and so forth. So, pipelines is a way to keep track of patients with outstanding treatment and really streamlines that entire process. And then the last part is broadcasts. And this allows you to now send out, more sophisticated campaigns. So, through the broadcast system, you're able to, build out text message and email campaigns. You're able to, add your custom lists. You're able to set it up for automation. So some really cool use cases are, you can, for example, send a follow-up text message to patients that have just completed a surgical extraction. You want to make sure that they have their medication, their antibiotics, and that they're not in pain. And again, this is how you would do it. You would essentially create this campaign or a broadcast. You can go through and add all your details here. So you can build out your email campaigns, your text campaigns, and then you're either sending it out as a one-time list, or for example, in the use case that I just spoke to, which is like anytime there's a surgical extraction, you want to send that out, you would set it up to auto send to a segment, right? And so this is where automation really starts to get really creative, because you can create much more personalized experiences and interactions with your patient without having all that manual administrative tasks. So that's a super high level kind of introduction to what I'm referring to with our CRM. And I'm going to now switch back to my presentation and go through the last slides that I have here. So, what are the transformative benefits, right? So, as this technology gets better and AI starts getting incorporated and the systems can automatically kind of customize the talking points that are getting messaged to the patients based on, your overall interactions, This just continues to remove tedious tasks and really enables your patients to be present in the moment. We talk a lot about how digital systems have prevented us from being present. And there's just a huge revolution coming to dentistry in terms of this innovative technology. And to be honest with you, that's what I've done in my practice, right? So in my practice, we went from, 0 patients to we average over 100 new patients a month. A lot of that has to do with our reputation, but how do we, at that kind of scale, make sure that we're following up with patients, that we're making sure patients are coming in for routine care, that they're not falling behind on outstanding treatment? It's all with these automated systems that we build out and customize using the dental app. So some cool use cases. We talked about reactivating patients. So using the CRM, just like I showed, to kind of segment and then launch email and text campaigns. We have some orthodontic offices that use this. So for example, they're sending out a campaign to any patient who's completed orthodontics that has siblings in the office, right? And then offering them a 10% discount. Or just different creative ways that you can segment and really refine who your message wants to go to. And what this leads to is you're filling empty seats and you're getting patients back in, right? So this whole notion that, our patients that come to us, we're sitting on a gold mine of essentially patients that need outstanding treatment, and we don't really historically have a way to activate them. Well, that's a perfect example. Automating post-ops. So this is something I do in my office all the time. So just having different kind of segments and campaigns that go out. So once someone completes a wisdom tooth extraction, or once someone completes a veneer, appointment, or someone comes in for, an implant. Well, how do you follow up with them? And, you can do that manually, but you can also just start automating some of those things. So that's a really cool use case. And just some of the results, like as we continue to bring this to market, we're learning what other offices are doing using our system, and it's really exciting. I mean, we're seeing obviously the basic things, reminders are going in, but offices, once we onboard them, we're bringing in all their data, and all of a sudden they find opportunities to reach out to. In many cases, there's 40, 50, 100 patients that have outstanding treatment, and out of the box, offices are finding ways to get them back in, launch automated campaigns, and essentially increase their revenue, fill their chairs, and grow. And that's the mission of the dental app, is to help make running a dental practice and keeping track of these minute details that make your experience unique and increases your reputation. We are trying to help streamline that and make that easier for offices to implement. So I talked a little bit about the onboarding process, and essentially, that's really what it comes down to. Is I think that when offices are trying to think through how they want to implement these things, the first step is to sit down and think about what they're doing manually today and what they would love to automate. There's so many other aspects that you can improve and automate. So claims automation, revenue cycle management, sending out virtual statements for links to pay. There's a lot of great tools out there, but really sit down, audit what you're doing, what are you doing manually, and then start putting a plan together on how to, just automate some of those processes and, and drive the momentum in your practice. At the end of the day, all of these tactics, once they're implemented, they're going to help you have fewer missed appointments, increase your retention, improve your reputation, save a bunch of time for your staff, have more visibility into your practice, and obviously just drive overall growth. So that is really my entire presentation. I really appreciate you all hearing me out. I saw a lot of pop-ups here that came through in regards to comments. So let me pull this up and see if there's anything that I can
Leave this up for 1 second, Leor, just so people can see your QR code for a minute. A
Yeah,
couple
sorry.
things I can handle is, yes, you can get the recording. My team can share how you can make sure you get the recording. You have to text in a certain thing here to get the recording. Leor, I don't know what you did, but this was the most attendance we had on a Monday morning in the history of our webinar. So good job. This was the hot topic. I do want you to unshare in a minute. Now you can do whatever you would like. I just wanted you to have your QR code up for there in a minute.
Okay. So I'll go ahead and stop sharing.
Cool. I just want to bring mine up for 1 second. really valuable insight. You are someone who's truly walking the walk. You invented something to help people just like yourself. I love that. That's what I did with Dentist Job Connect, Nacho sponsor, to invent something to help people just like yourself. We all spend so much time explaining dental treatment to patients, and when you can get them back in your office to do the care that they need to chew and smile with confidence and improve your production and feel better about what you do, that truly is the magic. Was there anything else you wanted to kind of highlight before we finished up our webinar?
No, I think we hit all the top key points. I think that creativity comes down to the individual office and what they're able to do. I think the right tools makes all the difference, and I think that really comes down to it. If you get into the mindset of, how do you streamline, grow, and be more effective in running your practice, you're going to find the way. And my company continues to try to deliver best-in-class tools to help you do that.